Today we are working on Excel Expert Lesson 3, the 9th lesson, drilling down into a pivot table and pivot chart. So suppose you want to know what the detailed transactions that added up to the total value Z for cruises were paid using air miles. With the Sales Pivot Chart Drilling Workbook open, select the Sheet 3 tab if necessary, then double-click cell B5. A new worksheet is created with the detailed transactions that comprise this value in the pivot table. Double-click the right edge of column A header to auto-fit the column width. So I'm just going to double-click right there, and that auto-fits that to the largest value. Mark that as answered. Go to the next one. Suppose you want to see transactions for cruises that were paid for using air miles represented in the pivot chart. Select the Sheet 3. Drag the pivot chart to cell J1. So drag this up here to J1. In the pivot chart, display the sale type list. So click Sale Type. Mine was frozen. Hopefully yours won't. So select, and then what does it tell me to do? Sale type, deselect, select all, and then select cruise. Here we go again. Boom, boom. Well, come on, computer. Alright, it took forever. I had to pause it and do everything. Hopefully yours won't. We're going to select cruise and then click OK. Now the chart shows only data for cruises, so mark that as answered. Go to the next one. In the pivot chart fields pane, select the date field checkbox. So over here we're going to select date. The months and date fields are added to the axis. Categories area in the pivot chart fields pane, and a bar for each payment type displays for each month. Notice that the Excel pivot chart drill down buttons now display in the lower right hand corner of the pivot chart. So you see that down here. Mark that as answered. In the pivot chart, click the expand entire field button. So that's right here. The chart now shows the detailed transaction for each cruise. Notice that also that the pivot table expands to show more detailed data. So there's a lot more there to it than before. In the pivot chart, display the payment type list. Deselect. Hopefully this isn't going to be like the last time. Select all, and then select air miles, and then click OK. The chart now shows the detailed transactions for each cruise that was paid for using air miles. So mark that as answered. Go to the next one, the pivot chart, click the collapse entire field button. So that's this button here. Gives the more summarized data. The chart now shows the monthly totals for each cruise that was paid for using air miles. In the pivot chart, click the Collapse Entire Field button once more, and it now only shows one bar representing the total dollar amount for cruises that were paid for using air miles. Mark that as answered. Submit. Submit results. This completes drilling down into a pivot table and pivot chart.